Hey, Negro.
That's Mr. Negro to you, capital N.
Pharisees who said we ain't never been in captivity. Y'all remember that scripture? When the Pharisees said we never, it was a tale about who they really were. Because they knew that the whole of Yehuda had been in captivity. Right? But the context of this is that when you go through places, you pick things up. If you don't know about it, there was a reverse migration on 70 AD. They all went down through Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan. Matter of fact, in Ghana, they sing a song about it. It's called by a dude, they used to call it Aman Zeba. It's called Wajoke or something like that. And they tell the history of how they came all the way from Israel, Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, come all the way across the continent. So the context is this. When you go through those places and you live there, you pick up things. There's another group of people who are captured and then taken to other places. Being unbeknownst to most people in the awakening, most of us originally came out of Spain and Portugal. Some of us was on the continent for a short period of time. Some of us were never on the continent. I mean, it's never on the continent. I'm talking about after 70 AD. Josh, what you talking about? The slave trade started. First of all, Rome was taking slaves to Spain during the time even of the Shalakim. Y'all don't believe me? Let's look it up. Let's go to Romans 15. Show y'all something about y'all. Romans 15. We'll start at verse 24. Man, I start at verse 23. Romans 15, verse 23. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? All right. Romans 15, 23. But not having more place in these parts and having great desire these many years to come unto you. Whensoever I took my journey to Spain, I will come unto you, for I trust to see you in my journey. It must be bought. Why does he have a book of Romans and he's talking about Spain? And be brought on the way thither by you. I first be somewhat filled by your company, but I will go to Jerusalem to minister unto the Kodashim. For it pleased them of Macedonia and Achaia to make a certain contribution to the poor Kodashim there at Jerusalem. And it had pleased them verily, and they are debtors, for they are. For if the Gentiles have been partakers of the Ruach things, their duty is also to minister unto them the carnal things. In other words, Gentiles, we know that it was two different Gentiles. There was the Gentiles, and it was the northern kingdom. 28. Wherefore I perform this and have sealed to them this fruit which I come by you into Spain. So there was a group then that was already in Spain. 70 AD, more was taken to Spain. When the transatlantic slave trade first started, the transatlantic slave trade was originally the Inquisition. The Inquisition started where? They gave them an ultimatum, King John and all of them. They said, you can take, if you want to avoid death, you got to give up your children. Everybody's of 13 years of age. They took the ones of 13 years of age, brought them to Angola, brought them to St. Thomas, brought them to the Congo. Set up slave colonies there. Bred them for 13 years. 13 years later, transatlantic slave trade. Went back to them exact same places. But before they did that, they were taking people directly from Spain and Portugal to Brazil and to the islands. Directly. Then after that, they passed the bill. They started transatlantic slave trade. They started going to the places where those 13-year-olds was taken 10, 13 years later. Those people became the first slaves that come to America. Why am I saying that? These people didn't go through Taphnes. These people didn't go through Taphnes. There's a group of people that came through that Yahuwah stripped completely. He separated them for a specific reason. There was other Yahudim that was sold. But within the group that was sold, there was a group that completely bypassed Taphnes. Let me show you something. Matter of fact, I told the Ak I'm going to call them. Y'all got to know this because I'm trying to show you how serious y'all are in this awakening.
Shalom, Elder.
Hey, the one and only Benaiah Israel.
Shalom, Elder.
Hey, Big Ak, tell us a little bit about what happened with the Yayas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and actually, too, you mentioned it before about was there a people in Africa called Yahudi? I actually covered that in Hidden Hebrews 2. It was from a book called The Journal of an Ashanti Resident, and that's the one where it said, like, the Jews of the Soyudan, according to my informers, are divided into many large and small tribes. But then further down, it says this is in reference, and this is talking about the Soyudan, which is Negro land. It said this is in reference to Mr. Bad, which is Kingdom of Yehudi. And you can also find that in maps as well. So I guess whatever they said about that, that's not correct. Also, as far as like the Yayas, the Yayas are a important cornerstone in our history. And this is something, Most High willing, we'll go into that in the next video, and also reclaiming the throne. But the Yayas started in like 1050 AD. So before the 1400s, there was a guy named Yaya. His lineage goes all the way back to King David.
Hold on, say it again. Say it about his lineage again.
It's Yaya's lineage goes back to King Dawid.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and his and we have the document that will show like Yaya's, his father, his grandfather, his great grandfather, all the way back. We literally have every single forefather of Yaya, all the way back to King Solomon and to King Dawid. But what happened he was born in like 1050 AD, but he started. One thing about the Brews, they sometimes work with the Muslims, sometimes they teamed up with the Portuguese. So in this time, he teamed up with the Portuguese, and Yaya was a beast when it came to warfare. After all, he's a descendant of King Dawid. So him and King Henry I, they attacked the Moors. So they had warfare against the Moors. They won. The King of Portugal was so thankful to him that he gave him a property, a territory. And the territory that he gave him in Portugal was called the village of the Negros.
They didn't hear that. Tell them again. They didn't hear that. Say it again.
Okay. The king of Portugal gave Yaya a territory in Portugal called the village of the Negros.
Okay.
And he also named him, Lord or Master over the Negros. Also, at that point in time, he changed his name from Yaya to Negro. You can actually see it in books where they end up swapping Yaya for Negro for his descendants. Like you'll see Dawid Negro, you'll see Solomon Negro, you'll see Judah Negro. And so from around the 1000s all the way to like the 1400s, they were multiplying, and these people were called Negroes. Not only was he wasn't just some guy that was called Negro, he was literally called the Negro, and he was prominent because the King of Portugal put him over all the Brews in Spain and Portugal. So they made him and his descendants the chief rabbis. They were the tax collectors, and they were the governors of Judah in Portugal. Then the king of Spain came along and said, "Hey, you Negroes come over here, and I want you to manage, the brews here in Spain. So same thing happened. They went over there and they became the chief rabbis, and they became the tax collectors and the governors. And that's why when you read books, you'll read books that says that the Negroes were very famous. Like everybody knew about them because they were running everything as far as the brews. And like I said, keep in mind, these were descendants from King Dawid himself. All right. And then from there, you'll also have references to show that they were expelled. Like in that document I was telling you that shows every single forefather of Yaya Negro, there's a little entry when it gets to Spain and Portugal. And the little entry says expelled. So basically in the 1400s, they were expelled with everybody else out of Spain and Portugal. And you know the story from there. Most of them went to Africa. From Africa, you'll see things like in the transatlantic, and this is the funny thing about that comment, in the transatlantic slave trade database, these are people that were actually on the ships that escaped. And then after they escaped, they turned around and asked them, what is your name? And what you'll find is that many of them answered, my name is Yaya. And these were people that were actually on the transatlantic slave trade. I mean, they were actually on the ships in the transatlantic slave trade.
Appreciate you, Big Op.
Oh, no problem.
No, you about to say? You about to say something else? What you about to say?
Oh, no, that was it. I was going to say, I can get into more of it, but just, yeah, that's about it.
So these people that was in Spain and Portugal that was called the Negroes was brung to West Africa, then that place was called Negro land after that, right?
Yep. And this reference that I read to you guys in the beginning, it said that the kingdom in Negro land was called Yehudi.
But I thought these dudes said that was Yiddish. So I guess they knew Yiddish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was in the continent.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate you, Ak. All right. So the statement that was made, I'm trying to show you how little these people know about you, even though they're trying to tell you, they're going to tell you about yourself. It's a reason why you was called Negro. As you see in this document, you see how Negro is not lowercase? Negro was a last name. The last name of the descendants of King Dawid. So that means America knows too. Yeah, y'all know it's a dude. What's the dude name? Played in the Aquaman movie. The dude that played Black Manta. His name is Yaya. Name is Yaya. So the second thing they said is who in the continent goes by the name Yaya. This is the reason why you pull up slave records and you see ya. I'm from South Carolina. We got these people down there near Danny Yahoo's way. They call them Gullah Geechee. The Gullah Geechee was sitting around campfires saying Kumbaya, not Kumbaya and Zombie. Yaya Negro, the seed of Dawid. This is the reason why the text says in the last days he will rebuild the tabernacle of. Go ahead.
I just want to say something just to speak on something. So you got to understand the hatred that was so deep for the Yahudim. All these places where he named that they took you, like what they would call the slave coast or Negro land.
Right.
Or, like Angola and stuff like that. Even the Congo,
right,
where a lot of our people were taken and were enslaved. They weren't just enslaved by the so-called white man.
Right.
There were tribes there that helped them,
right,
to be enslaved. So the danger in listening to these people who are still there, like Maury Husha said, that never left the continent, that never discontinued from their heritage is that they might be the ones who helped enslave you.
Right.
They might be the descendants of those people. And the hatred runs so deep that they'll act like they're with your heritage just to snare you with the falsehood, right? Because there's nothing more profane than having someone who's in the truth, in Yehuda, forsake Yahuwah's name for a curse.
Right.
That's the biggest way to snare the people. That's how the elect or the very elect can be deceived. Because what we do is we want an identity so bad. We want a purpose so bad, but we're not willing to wait for Yahuwah to restore that.
Right.
We want it now.
Right.
This American society makes us want everything right now. It's microwave.
Right.
Right? So we got to be careful when we entertain these dudes who are in the place where we were enslaved, because they just might be trying to send you back into Egypt again.
On ships.
Egypt in your mind.
That's right.
By way of idols.
That's right. So anyway, y'all can see right behind me, it says, Noah fled accompanied by his confidants. Above mentioned was D. Judah and the wealthy D. David Negro Yahya. Right? Disputes between her and John Council waged war against Portugal. It goes on and on about David Negro and David Negro Yahya and David Abin Yahya. Right? He's called, it says, Yahya, the Yahya family were received at court. Yosef bin Dawid Abin Yahya stood in special favor with the king and he was called the wise Jew or the wise Yahudim, and who was becoming himself fond of learning. You get the context. I ain't gonna keep reading all that because we gotta speed through this. Again, there's another name we talking about, the Yahya family, Solomon bin Yahya Negro, capital N. Right? Again, he pursued the tolerant policy of his grandfather Alfonso of Castile and issued letters of protection of the Yahudim and the Moors of Pharaoh. He moreover employed the Yahudim in service, as for instance, Dam Yahya Abin Yaish, ancestor of the widely branching Yahya family, who was a receiver of customs of, I don't know what that word is, to whom he gave estates, right? He was a tax collector and he was over money. Likewise, Sancho's son, skip down, Alfonso, who employed the Yahudim as farmers and tax collectors, although under him the hostile attitude of the church began to be felt. So we know that church started oppressing them. This is the breakdown, right? The documente, Jakia, I guess it's supposed to be like, whatever. That language, and it goes down. You see the number 1 through 50 something, and it goes down for Dawid, Shlomo, Semaiah, Dawid, blah 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 blah. It goes down. Then y'all see it. Don Yehuda, Don Yosef, Don Shlomo, on and on and on and on and on. So let's keep going. I ain't gonna be. That's not what all my lesson is about. Here we go. King Alfonso Henriquez entrusted Yah bin Yai III, a Yahudim who played the role of tax collector and supervisor. Yahya and Yah III also, Yai III also became a high chief rabbi of the Portuguese Jewish community or Yahudim community. Yahya bin Yahya's grandson, Yosef bin Yah, was appointed as high steward in the realm and Henriquez's successor. So you get the context of the Yahya people, Yahya Negroes. Blah, 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 blah. And this goes on about the Yahya Negroes. I ain't got to keep hitting the point. Y'all understand what I'm saying? The Yahudim were prominent in Portugal. It goes back about David Negro Yahya and Yahya Negro, the Negro family. That was called the village of the Negroes. After that, they were shipped to Spain and Portugal, and that place became Negro land. Yahya, Portuguese family in the Middle Ages. Spain, what did we just read you in Rome? Who was Paul writing to? Spain. Yahya, Portuguese family of the Middle Ages, members of who were prominent even in Portugal, Spain, even Italy and Turkey. Of the family before the additional cognomen Negro. Negro. With reference to the Moors, of whom several estates. Yahya, Yaish flourished in Libsyn to the 11th century. Right? It says, anyway, y'all get the context.